Hello, First Baptist. This week, we're looking at what Philippians 2 has to tell us about anxiety. Now, typically, if you're looking to the book of Philippians for guidance on anxiety, you would look to chapter 4, verse 4, where Paul reminds the church in Philippi to be anxious for nothing. And we'll be studying Philippians 4 in a few weeks, so don't get too anxious about it. Philippians 2, though, does a very good job in illustrating the difference between healthy and faithful concern for others that is based in love and wanting the best for someone, and anxiety that is grounded in fear and in worry. Timothy showed genuine care for the interests of the Philippians. Paul showed genuine concern for the welfare of Epaphroditus and those who loved him. The Greek word for concern in these verses is exactly the same as the word translated to worry or anxiety in other places, but here in Philippians 2, showing concern for others is shown as a strength and not as a weakness. It all has to do with your motivation. Is your motivation for your concern based in love, or is it fear? The thing is, the world is an incredibly broken place, and we have very little control over the things in our own lives, and even less control over national and global problems, if any. Thinking of the future can be really overwhelming if we let it be, and that's completely legitimate. We should be concerned when we look around us. The question for a follower of Jesus is, how do we engage with our concern? Do we respond with faith? So in this week's lesson, you'll also be looking at Matthew chapter 6, where Jesus says these following words. Therefore, I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Isn't life more than food and the body more than clothing? Consider the birds of the sky. They don't sow or reap or gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Aren't you worth more than they? Can any of you add one moment to his lifespan by worrying? And why do you worry about clothes? Observe how the wildflowers of the field grow. They don't labor or spin thread, yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all of his splendor was adorned like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, won't he do much more for you, you of little faith? So growing up, my family wasn't much for pet names. Some kids almost never hear their own names. All they hear are darling or sweetheart or some other affectionate nickname. My mom called my dad Babe once, and I'm pretty sure I remember that there was an audible record scratch, and time probably stood still for a moment. Pet names, though, are a very human way of expressing love and intimacy for those we care about most. The phrase, you of little faith, shows up 4 times in the Gospel of Matthew. It's a phrase that never shows up again in outside text. It's as if Jesus coined the phrase just for us. And you may have heard from pastors or teachers in the past that this was a phrase of rebuke, that an exasperated Jesus was impatient or frustrated with our lack of trust in him. Dallas Willard says it should really be translated as little faiths, a nickname that Jesus invented as a way to gently chide his disciples for their anxiety. Not a rebuke or a belittlement or even a criticism, it's a divine term of endearment that shows his compassion for us. Jesus says it with a smile, and maybe he shakes his head a little as he says it, considering our very human limitations. He's expressing love in the face of the chasm between our own understanding and that of the cosmic creator of all things. He says it with a hand on our shoulder or a kiss on the forehead. He shows to us the same genuine care that Timothy and Paul showed toward the Philippians and their concerns. Matthew 6 is not a reprimand that we don't trust God enough. It's loving encouragement to trust him more. These are the words of a parent holding a child as she cries in fear, rocking her gently in darkness, whispering in her ear, "Oh, my little faith, I am with you, I am with you." So Jesus says to look to the birds and the flowers when you feel anxious, little faith. Look at the way God cares for them. He is their caretaker, but God is your Father. How much more will he care for you, his beloved child, his little faith? It doesn't mean that he's promising that everything is going to be great all the time. It may not even be okay much of the time, but he promises that you won't be alone. Your cares and concerns won't go unnoticed, and you won't go through life unloved. So why wouldn't you trust him, little faith? God has the birds of the sky, he has the wildflowers, and he has you. Be blessed, and we'll see you on Sunday.